Hello and welcome to Entertainment News Break, your source of what's hot this week in TV and movies.
We give you the latest and anticipated series, blockbusters, and streaming services. We confirm what you've heard about what's up and coming in the world of entertainment. We're your hosts. I'm Lindsay. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Brandon. And this week we'll be taking a look at what's coming up in movies, television, and streaming services throughout the rest of the year. Netflix will be releasing on December 11th its original movie, The Ridiculous Six, starring Adam Sandler. The satire comedy is set in the Wild West and also stars Taylor Lautner, Will Forte, Steve Buscemi, Rob Schneider, Luke Wilson, Terry Crews, George Garcia, and more. Let's take a look at the trailer.
The film has received a lot of criticism from news stations reporting that many Native Americans cast in the film had left due to its misrepresentation of Native American culture, specifically the Apaches. Netflix responded by saying, "The movie has ridiculous in the title for a reason, because it is ridiculous. It is a broad satire of Western movies and the stereotypes they are popularized, featuring a diverse cast that is not only part of, but in on the joke." Apparently, the Native Americans, that cast, weren't in on the joke.
In preparation for the holiday season this year, Netflix will be releasing an original movie special, A Very Murray Christmas. The film stars Bill Murray, George Clooney, Rhodesia Jones, Amy Poehler, Miley Cyrus, and more. In the film, Bill Murray is worried that no one will attend his show due to a terrible snowstorm in New York City. The film can be expected to have a lot of comedy, music, and holiday cheer as well. Catch it December 4th on Netflix.
On December 4th, Amazon will be releasing Season 2 of Transparent. Transparent is a comedy drama series that revolves around the lives of a family living in Los Angeles who discover that their father is transgender. The main character, Maura Pfeifferman, is played by Jeffrey Tambor, and the series was inspired by the writer Jill Soloway's father, who came out as a trans woman. Let's look at the trailer for Season 2. So do you think this show's going to shed, a light on transgender minorities?
Yeah, and I would hope so, because there's not really a lot of shows or movies that I can think of that really do tackle this. I mean, we've seen a number of stuff that's trying to take on homosexual culture with The Outs the other week, along with other shows, but we've never really seen transgender really tackled. The only movie that's coming to my mind that actually has a real transgender character is this film from the 80s. That was one of Robin Williams' first films called The World According to Garp, which had John Lithgow playing a transgender man, and he won a supporting Oscar for that performance, and deservedly so. And I thought that character was really good, but that was just a strange, just out of nowhere example. But from what I've saw of this show, yeah, I like how it's not just the father. It's actually you can see it like spreading to his kids as well if you've seen some of the other trailers for it. And I'm interested in that. That's kind of neat, especially with seeing the parents argue over, are we messing up our kids, or is it right to introduce them to this kind of stuff just early on?
Yeah, it's also a comedy too, as well as a drama. So I think that's a good mix. When you think of like maybe transgender or like maybe about that or show, you think maybe drama more so. And looking at like Season 2 coming up, the teaser looks pretty like funny, just a normal family, and I think that's really good at what they're getting at. They have their problems, they just happen to be different. And I think it's good that it's focusing on like she's in the family rather than just being by herself in a world alone. Instead, she does have a family and she has everything figured out. And it kind of reminds you of when you're watching Orange is the New Black and you have Laverne Cox's character with her son, and you can kind of compare the two, just like see how it affects the children or whatnot. There has been some criticism because the character playing this woman isn't transgender, and they could have picked tons of actors that were. Do you think that it's going to get a lot of criticism for that?
Well, I mean, it kind of just depends for me on how convincing the performance is. I mean, yeah, you're right, actually, that's a good point, that there probably is a lot of transgender actors out there that could easily take up this role, as much as there's many straight people that are playing gay characters in movies, mostly doing terrible stereotypes of these groups. So I think it's I don't know, it kind of just depends. It'd be nice to hear from transgender community on what they think of this performance and if it portrays them well. And that would be nice to see. I'm not really sure yet. Because from what I've seen in the show, I liked what I saw of that performance, but it was also very similar to John Lithgow's character from The World According to Garp. But I like the cast in general. I like the look of the show. I like the look of seeing the culture of just the family, not just the father's transformation, but also the kids and seeing how they're taking to it, how they're, we saw the one scene I saw in a trailer where it's like him, where the one kid is coming up with a new name. He accidentally calls his father like a mix between mother and father, subconsciously, and just starts doing that, and yeah,
it shows how hard it can be to get used to. Honestly, we live in a heteronormative society, and we're used to cisgender people, so it's a good switch for television.
Yeah, and I might check it out then. I liked how when I saw the first trailer, it mostly was a comedy, and then the second one was entirely a drama too. Well, when we come back, we will be discussing what's new on television from up to the new year. And up next, we have Tiffany and Madison with this week's box office top 10. Stay tuned.
Feel-good dramas, the return of James Bond, and the first appearance of the Peanuts on the big screen are just some of the entries that make up our list this week. I'm your host, Madison.
And I'm Tiffany for this week's top 10 box office hits. The long-running Paranormal Activity series returns at number 10 with Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension. The fifth found footage terror fest stars Chris J. Murray, Britt Shaw, and Ivy George as a young family that must protect their daughter from an evil entity with the help of a special camera that can see spirits. The film promises this time you will see the activity.
Experience Never Gets Old claims number 9, The Intern. Our first comedy of the list stars Robert De Niro as Ben Whitaker, a 70-year-old widower that has grown bored of retirement and seeks to get back in the game. And thankfully, the fashion website managed by Jules Osteen, played by Anne Hathaway, takes him on as a senior intern. Can Whitaker adapt to the modern world of business, and could his experience help Jules improve her own business?
While the other entries are sure to fill your vampire, ghost, and monster quota, Vin Diesel returns to check witches off your list with number 8, The Last Witch Hunter. Diesel stars as the witch hunter alongside veteran actor Elijah Wood and TV star Rose Leslie as they attempt to stop the combined forces of the most horrifying witches in history.
Number 7 sees superstar Bradley Cooper playing a former star in Burnt. Cooper takes on the role of Chef Adam Jones, whose drug use and deviant behavior cost him his career. Can Adam work his way back up from the gutter and build a 3-star restaurant? Never underestimate a man with nothing to lose.
Number 6 houses the animated family comedy Hotel Transylvania 2. Adam Sandler returns as Dracula, whose hotel and resort for monsters is continuing to do well after the events of the first film. However, when he learns his half-vampire, half-human grandson is showing no signs of being a vampire, he must hurry to bring out his inner monster before his soon-to-be visiting father, Vlad, Mel Brooks, thinks he is letting humans into the hotel. Stay tuned for our top 5 weekend box office hits later in the show. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Madison. See you after the break.
Welcome back. And this week in television, we have some new seasons of your favorites that you do not want to miss. Season 2 of Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce will be airing on Bravo December 1st. The series follows the life of Abby McCarthy, a self-help author who confides in her friends as she goes through a divorce. The series is based on the Girlfriend's Guide book series. Let's check out the trailer.
On November 27th, A&E is releasing the 4th season of Unforgettable, a series which follows a young woman with a photographic memory whom joins the NYPD to assist in solving murder cases. The only thing that she can't remember, though, is what happened to her the day her sister was murdered.
In other news, Sci-Fi will be premiering a 3-night miniseries called Childhood's End, which is based off the 1953 novel of the same name. The book tells the story of creatures that call themselves overlords that peacefully invade Earth in hopes to rule Earth as a utopia and strip humans of their identity. Here's a look at the trailer.
The book Childhood's End was written by Arthur C. Clarke. Are you familiar with him?
Not at all. What else has he written?
He hasn't really done too much. He's been sort of in and out in the sci-fi community, but he's known mostly for being the writer of the script for 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of the most held-up sci-fi films ever made. So, I mean, obviously he won't unfortunately be able to write the script for this adaptation of his series, but it's neat to see something of his work come out, because I didn't really know he wrote many sci-fi books. Maybe novels is where he mostly focused on. But as far as Childhood's End itself, you know what? Good on Sci-Fi Network. To be honest, after Sharknado and them focusing mostly on just taking movies from the Asylum and airing it on their channel, which are just trying to be bad movies, now they're trying to kind of do what AMC is doing, where they're releasing, at least mostly sci-fi focused, but stuff based off of former properties on their channel with Minority Report, and that's cool. And this is just another example with this neat miniseries. It's kind of reminding me of when Fox was doing Wayward Pines earlier in October, which was also based off a book series from years ago. And this is looking interesting. What do you think of the story from what you saw?
It looks like an interesting concept. It almost reminded me of Children of the Corn a little bit.
Yeah.
Like freaky children kind of, you know, trying to take over the world or something. I don't know how it'll be executed. I haven't really taken sci-fi seriously since Sharknado. Like, it's kind of hard to.
Yeah.
And hopefully they come back with a successful, you know, series. Do you have much hope for the series?
From the looks of it, I mean, obviously I don't know about the full series because sci-fi is kind of infamous for their low production values and just poor special effects. But from what I saw of what they used in the trailer, it was well shot. It looked fine. I like the look of it. I like some of the imagery that they especially used to, like, they never really show the aliens in the film. They just kind of hint at them. My problem with Childhood's End, though, despite the title, I'm not really sure what that is supposed to mean from what I've seen of the story, because to me, it looked like a expanded version of the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man, which was about aliens coming down and people, and then they're going, we want world peace, and it turns out they were actually evil the whole time and just wanted to dominate mankind, and this looks like it's going to be much of the same. And I'm interested to see how they're going to expand that story into a full miniseries, but I'm not sure how they're going to execute that really. And like you said, it's going to be interesting how they put it together. But it's nice to see an old sci-fi author's work being adapted. Mostly nowadays they're just trying to rip off something from another property or take something and say we're adapting this, but really just be trying to copy something else that's popular on the market.
I mean, it could be argued about they can't really go wrong with borrowing a successful book rather than just making up something. You know, it's, you know, less of a factor to make it not good or successful or whatever. And, you know, I think sci-fi authors, a lot of times when their work is adapted, it's a much better adapted than any other genre of a book sometimes. You know, specifically, you know, Stephen King, like, movies, you can't really go wrong with those, and their books are good. And I didn't even realize this guy wrote The Odyssey. It was very successful.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad. Do you think there are any major faults that stick out?
Probably that. I think if they want to change the story in any way, it'd be interesting to see what happened if the aliens were actually good. Simpsons did that to sort of parody this story. So hopefully, you know, we'll see how it turns out, and hopefully it lives up to expectations of fans of the book.
In sci-fi, anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Up next, we have this rest of the week's top 10 box office hits, and when we come back, we will be discussing what's coming up in the box office.
Welcome back to the top 10 weekend box office hits. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Madison. And now it's time for the top 5. After tackling the dark struggles of the Civil War in Lincoln, Steven Spielberg returns to paint the Civil War in Bridge of Spies at number 5. Tom Hanks leads the helm as American lawyer James B. Donovan, who is recruited by the CIA to take on an intense negotiation mission for the release of a pilot who is arrested after his plane was shot down by the Soviet Union.
Number 4 is a treat to both children and children of the 90s. Readers beware, you're in for a scare. It's the return of R.L. Stine's Goosebumps, but this time on the silver screen. The movie follows teenager Zach Cooper, played by Dylan Minnette, who is upset after moving from a big city to a small town. Things begin to look up when he meets the girl next door, Hannah, played by Odeya Rush, and her father, R.L. Stine, played by Jack Black. Stine reveals that the monsters in his books are real, so he protects his readers by keeping them locked up in their books. However, when Zach unintentionally releases the monsters, it's up to him, Stine, and Hannah to put them back.
Number 3 comes from the legendary director of the works like Alien, Blade Runner, and more recently, Prometheus, Ridley Scott. His newest work, The Martian, goes into space. The film stars Matt Damon as astronaut Mark Whitney, who is presumed dead and left behind by his crew after a nasty storm takes place on their mission on Mars. Alive but stranded on Mars with few supplies, Mark is forced to gather his knowledge and wits to find a way to signal Earth that he's alive.
Hitting high at number 2 this weekend is the return of Charles Schulz's beloved comic strip characters on the big screen with the Peanuts movie. Featuring a cast of child actors just like the classic TV specials, the film tells a story that should be familiar to veterans of the series as Charlie Brown deals with the struggles of elementary school, while his dog Snoopy takes to the skies to combat his arch nemesis, the Red Baron.
And finally, number 1, taking in $70.4 million as it opened this weekend, comes from the 24th entry in the long-running James Bond franchise, Spectre. The previous film, Skyfall, focused on the secrets of Bond's superior's past coming back to haunt her, while Spectre forces Bond to confront his own cult full of skeletons. Bond receives a cryptic message from his past that sends him on a trail to uncover a sinister organization. While his superior battles political forces to keep the Secret Service alive, Bond peels back the layers of deceit to reveal the troubled truth behind Spectre. Starring Daniel Craig once again as Bond, the film also stars Christoph Waltz and Rudolph Fiennes.
Thank you for joining me for this weekend's Top 10 Box Office Hits. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Madison. Be sure to stay tuned for more movie news with Lindsay and Brandon after the break.
First on our lineup this week is a film directed by Jonathan Levine, The Night Before, which releases on November 20th. It's a Christmas movie set in New York City. For their annual tradition of Christmas Eve debauchery, 3 lifelong friends set off to find the holy grail of Christmas parties, since their yearly reunion might be coming to an end. The film stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Seth Rogen, and Miley Cyrus. Let's take a look at the trailer.
The next movie on our list this week is a mystery thriller titled Secret in Their Eyes. This hits theaters this Friday. The film presents a tight-knit team of rising investigators along with their supervisor is suddenly torn apart when they discover that one of their own teenage daughters has been brutally murdered. The film stars Nicole Kidman, Julia Roberts, and Dean Norris.
Last week, Pixar finally released a trailer for the movie everyone has been waiting for, Finding Dory. Not only fans, but Ellen was also excited for the trailer, as fans know her excitement for the long-awaited film. It has been 10 years since Finding Nemo hit theaters, and now we can be anticipating the next installment that plans to hit theaters in June of 2016. If you haven't already, check out the trailer for Finding Dory.
Director of The Hunger Games Catching Fire and The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, Francis Lawrence is back with the final installment of the series, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. This time, the war in Panem escalates to the destruction of other districts by the Capitol. Katniss Everdeen, the reluctant leader of the rebellion played by Jennifer Lawrence, must bring together an army against President Snow, while everything that she holds dear hangs in the balance. Let's take a look at the trailer for Mockingjay Part 2. Can Katniss, Peeta, Gale, and Finnick work together and destroy the Capitol for once and for all? Will they be able to overcome the challenges of mortal traps, dangerous enemies, and moral choices that will determine the future of millions? Find out this Friday, November 20th. So, alright, have you read this series? I guess we'll start with that.
Basically my order was I saw the first movie, I really liked it. I read the book and liked that as well, because it was sort of like reading the movie and seeing Katniss's point of view, which really changed it in so many ways. And then I read the book for Catching Fire, but I was enjoying it so much that I stopped right before The Hunger Games because I liked the cast of the movie so much, I wanted to see how that goes on into Catching Fire. And watched Catching Fire, liked it even better than the first one. And yeah, Mockingjay Part 1 comes out, and most of the fans of this series are telling me, oh, well, Mockingjay was the weakest book, I don't know how they're gonna do with the movie. I really liked the Part 1 of Mockingjay, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do with the finale.
Oh yeah, it's been a successful time throughout this series on movies and books, and a thing that I'm noticing, like this is more of a cult favorite, and I want to apply that to that, but I'm noticing people of all ages really like these films, and they're much more than just like cult following books. and definitely taken way more seriously than previous cult-following books of this generation, Twilight, you know.
I don't know if the popularity of Hunger Games has necessarily made it a cult book. I don't know. I wasn't, the book was just sort of a thing that I knew about in like high school when it was like first coming out. But knowing the movies, now seeing that, and yeah, I mean, no, the movies definitely are not cult. They're some of the biggest money makers coming out right now, and well, at least in the teen demographic. And from the looks of it, yeah, and part 2 is just going to build even more. Like the thing that a lot of critics complained about with part 1 was basically that the lack of the Hunger Games not being part of the story in that movie took away from the action and the creative set pieces that they had in the earlier films. And I sort of agree. I liked all the creepy stuff in Catching Fire with the strange birds that would scream in the voices of their loved ones and just all these weird concepts. And honestly, that's kind of my only problem with Catching Fire is I wanted to see more of that and just see how dark they could go. But now, I mean, from the looks of what they're doing with part 2 from the trailer, it's sort of going to be another Hunger Games, except this time it's a city. But it's not going to be, looks like it's not going to have like the mutated animals and the stuff that they had in previous movies. It's going to be more like bombs and other sort of traps that are going to try to wipe them out.
Yeah, I want to see really dark things. Like, it's a dark storyline. Like, you're looking at a dystopia sort of universe and everyone is literally fighting for their lives, you know? They're put in here and they're fighting, and that whole, like, when you tell someone about the story of this movie, the general plot, they're like, that's messed up, you know? And that's what's special kind of about it, and you want the movies to kind of picture what's really happening in Katniss's mind. And it is lacking, like, her view completely. Like, you know, in the books, like, you get that whole view she's looking at. And, you know, how do you think, like, it's differing from the movie?
At least from what I saw of the books now, I mean, the thing I like about the movies and that they're actually taking advantage of, which I believe I saw in the first one, was that now they're actually going to be showing what's going on in the other districts. Like, because now the book was entirely just Katniss and her travels. And the movie was like, they build up, because in Catching Fire you find out, in the book anyway, that the district that the character of Rue that died in the first movie came from is revolting and sort of having their own state of rebellion, and that when Katniss was celebrating Rue in the first film, the district they show in the movie was actually revolting. Well, in the book you don't know that until the next one, and I thought that was a neat change. But in terms of actual changes, I mean, there were some things. Like in the first film, they're attacked by these mutant dog creatures at the end. And in the book, you learn that the creatures are actually the other tributes that were mutilated.
Well, so, hopefully it really captures the last book and makes it all the better. I'm looking forward to it.
So am I. And may the odds be ever in your favor. Well, that looks like it's all the time we have for this week. I'm your host, Brandon.
And I'm Lindsay. Tune in next semester for more news on your favorite television series, movies, and streaming service originals. Also, we will be live tweeting our favorite series over the break, so if you haven't already, follow us on Twitter at ENB_IUPTV.
Happy holidays. See you next semester.